Welcome to Health and Wellness Thursdays. We do this monthly on behalf of the Margie Petersen Breast Center at Providence St. John's Health Center. And I want to welcome today's guest, Nancy Spiller, who is a writer and an author, and she's going to talk to us about that in just a few minutes. I want to remind you that we are recording this and it is available for you to view. Just shoot me an email and I'll make sure you get it. It will not be posted on the web. And if you can hold your questions to the end and mute yourself during her talk, if I see that we need to silence, I will do so. And questions and answers will be at the end. And just tune in. So Nancy, I will turn this over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Any opportunity to talk about writing is a good opportunity, I think. I'm going to start off with a little bit about my life in writing. That I've been writing since I was a kid. And there was a summer school class. I had kept journals. I started with a 5-year diary when I was, in third grade. And but there was a summer school class when I was in junior high school that really kicked it into gear for me. And it was with a book that took me from the visuals of photography to writing stories taken from that. And I'm going to show you the cover of that. The book was called Stop, Look, and Write. And it was like 1968, Miracles of Miracles. I found a copy of it on the World Wide Web and bought a used copy that I have now and treasure 75 cents back in 1968 to launch your writing career. So that's that. Can you see that? Can everybody see that? There, is that visible?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. So that's Stop, Look, and Write. And that got me going writing through high school. I went off to study English and creative writing at San Francisco State University. And then I became a freelance journalist and went on to to work on staff with newspapers, the San Jose Mercury News and the Los Angeles Herald Examiner. And I also freelance wrote for magazines and other newspapers. And then I turned towards more personal nonfiction in the form of humorous personal essays, many focused on food and lifestyle. And then I launched into a novel based on food memories, exploring my challenging childhood growing up in the suburbs of Northern California in the 1960s. And now I will show you that book cover. Let's see how neatly and cleanly I can get to that. So I did that one. I did a second book that I will try to pull up. It was a memoir. And this is Compromise Cake. It's a memoir. And I illustrated it as well. And anyway, the reason why I say all this is not to be bragging on any of the things that I've done professionally in the world of writing. Writing got me through and connected to the world that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten myself into. And the novel Entertaining Disasters explored my challenging childhood of the 1960s, growing up in the suburbs of Northern California. And it helped me work through that childhood. The Compromise Cake had to do with my relationship with my mother, and it helped work with that and helped me better understand that and explore that. So I speak to you about these things because writing brought me into the larger world, connected me to the larger world, helped me get perspective on some of the challenges in my life. And that's what I think is a great benefit for writers, even if they are not going to be seeking publication, not going to be seeking to share their writing in the world. But it can connect you to yourself in a larger way, to a writing community in a positive way. And I've also, besides the publications and publishing that I've done, I've also been a habitual journaler. And that helps me in developing my work for publication and helps me to explore my thinking on the page regarding topics that interest me or personal experiences that I want to write about. And it gets these out of my head and onto the page. And it's a grounding device, and it has a great benefit in that respect. And as expressive writing, it can be therapeutic. It gets your thoughts down on the page and helps alleviate ruminative, repetitive thinking. And in the 1990s, this is another cover that I'm going to attempt to share. A friend gave me a copy of The Artist's Way, and
I think the
okay.
participants can see The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to stop the screen sharing and go back to us. And so that's The Artist's Way, and it helped launch me into that habitual habit of journal practice that now I've been doing for decades. And I wanted to talk to you about the benefits of journal writing, which is something that we got into with the first iteration of the writing group that we've been doing with St. John's, with the Margie Petersen Breast Cancer Center. And we focused on expressive writing. And because there are studies that say expressive writing has real beneficial results for health and it lowers stress. And each week we covered different topics, writing from visual art, writing from food memories based on classes I designed for UCLA Extension. And we had other prompts as well. And expressive writing is getting thoughts and feelings out on the page, releasing them. And it's not necessarily for others to read. The benefits are for you and you alone, to organize your thoughts, to get things off your chest, as I've said. And this kind of writing can help develop resilience in your life and in the world. It gives you strength to know your mind and your feelings and your thoughts. And when you do this writing, the expressive writing, you don't have to hang on to it. You can shred it or burn it if you want to afterwards or after a time, or hang on to it for future reference. I've got decades worth of journals, and I'm not the only one. With the second offering that we've done, we decided to do something different. We did memoir, and legacy writing. And it seemed to work even better, putting all the emphasis on expressive writing. It was instead of calling it taking note, which was the first iteration, we called it Once Upon a Time. And what legacy writing is a bequest for family, friends, children, grandchildren. And memoir is an aspect of life. A popular formula currently is sort of the downfall and redemption memoir, whether it's about drug addiction or alcoholics, survivors of extreme situations, but it doesn't have to be that. Vladimir Nabokov wrote in his memoir, Speak Memory, of his coming into consciousness as a child in Tsarist and revolutionary Russia. It's a beautiful memoir, and it could have focused on his father's political assassination and Vladimir's exile from his native land, but it doesn't do that at all. And it's considered one of the great memoirs of 20th century, if not all time. I wanted to share with you, in regards to memoir writing, just a brief headline run through of a piece that I did for Writer's Digest on what I learned from memoir writing. And number one is that you determine a framework, something to contain the narrative, such as my mother's recipe box, the summer you spent at your grandmother's, your experiences with the Peace Corps, or your childhood growing up in Tsarist and revolutionary Russia. And that you, number two, keep a journal and write your thoughts and memories down in that. And you start the journal and then see what framework might benefit your interests, your ultimate interest in what you want to write about, what you want to focus on. And read great memoirs and books on writing them to inspire and instruct you. This is one thing that all writers practice, is reading great writing, reading great books on how to write and so on. Number four, it's not a competition, as in people might say to you, and when you maybe will tell them that you're working on writing a memoir, they will say, "What's so interesting about you?" So it's not a competition, but what is it? Is it for future generations or for publication or just for your own personal understanding, your own grounding? And number five, to get distance on a story, either through time, an adult reflecting on your childhood, or an elder reflecting on your young adulthood, or distance. You change a physical location and helps you reflect on another time and place in your life. Um, and most important is that you open your mind and your heart to the writing. So, so I want to talk a little bit about Once Upon a Time, which we're going to be offering again, starting in September. It's the September 2nd, Tuesday, or September 6th, I believe, which is
Yes.
Tuesday, and it's going to be the 4 Tuesdays in September. And we're going to focus on memoir and legacy writing. And we'll be using different prompts and have discussions, and we'll start journaling. And we'll check in from week to week to see how that is going for people. And we found that people are able to work through their concerns with the help of the meetings and the exercises. In the beginning of the meetings, we might share some inspiring quotes or maybe a poem that one of us has found and thought was inspirational and wonderful, um, that that helps sort of warm things up for the meeting. And we will be doing some in-session writing exercises. We'll be assigning homework for that people can work on during the week. And in this last session that we offered 4 weeks, some people wrote about their childhood experiences, other wrote on subjects and experiences that they'd had as adults and memories of their family life and their personal philosophies and their ideas. And they wrote about what they wanted their children and grandchildren to have when they were gone, whether that might whenever that might be. And they all seem to take comfort and strength from participation in the group. And we now meet on a monthly basis just to check in on our lives and any creative activities, including writing, that they might be up to. So in this upcoming offering of Once Upon a Time, we will once again do the memoir and legacy writing. And it's going to be an adventure of doing and experiencing it. There's not going to be any pressure for anyone to make it for an audience or share if they don't want to. We never put that pressure on anyone, but people do share along the way. They might want to, and they might enjoy sharing. There's never any expectation that your medical concerns will be written about or even discussed. But if it does come up in the writing or the discussion, it will be because that's what you wanted to explore and that's what you wanted to work through. And there are safeguards that are put into place regarding privacy and ground rules for the workshop, which Becky reminds us of with each meeting. And I just wanted to share with you some of the examples of the things that we work on, starting off with, which was a really lovely exercise to go through. Everybody, I think, agreed with that, is the mandala of life that people filled out and shared as they cared to. And it's a circle that's divided into 4 sections. And one section is you write down your positive memories and experiences in that upper left quadrant. And in the upper right quadrant, you write the gifts that I bring to my mandala of life. And number 3, the lower left quadrant, you write your frustrations and challenges that you've had in your life. And in number 4, the lower right quadrant, you write your desires or goals for your life. So that's the mandala of life, and it's a really interesting exercise to go through. And I think that we talked about it, and then we gave it a week for people to work with, and then again they shared it as they cared to. Um, but it was a great warm up to be writing about personal concerns and topics. Other writing prompts that we've used in the group were um, nice things about me on the inner self and of the outer self, and that you make a list for each and you choose one to write more about. And if we were doing that in the session, we would say 5 minutes to write about nice things of the inner self, 5 things to write about nice things on the outer self, and then another 5 minutes to take one of those things and to write more about. And again, it would not necessarily be something that would have to be shared, but we could certainly discuss it afterwards and so on. Words to capture who I am and who I am not, that you would make a list of those words and then pick a word to write more about. Other things are, what would I tell my teenage self? To write a letter to your teenage self, or to write a letter to your 20 something self, and so on. Write about what I've learned from my mistakes. Write about my happiest moments in life. Write about my hardest moments in life. Write about the good choices I've made in life. One of the more fun prompts that we had was that every name has a story. Every name has a story, and write about the story of your name. And that would be, your first name or your last name, and see where you arrive with that. I mean, one of the things that is most wonderful to me about writing is that you only find out what you're going to write once you start writing. So you sort of never know where these things are going to take you, and that's the adventure, and that's the thrill of it. Number 2 that I have here is make a list of 3 to 5 adventures that you've had in your life, and pick one and write more about it. And it's your definition of an adventure, whether it's trekking in Nepal or having a flat tire, on the 405 at rush hour. Number Another one is recall memorable things you have witnessed and write about one of those, and that could take any direction. One of the things that I will share with you now, if you wanted to think about, the shape, the form that a memoir, if you were interested in writing a memoir, I will borrow upon the guidelines or a suggestion given by William Zinsser. And now let me try this screen share one more time. I have 2 William Zinsser covers to share with you. It says I'm screen sharing. Am I?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. So this is William Zinsser, and Zinsser. He was a wonderful writer. He wrote memoir. He wrote journalism. He taught writing, nonfiction writing at Yale for years. And writing about your life is one of the things. And Inventing the Truth, the Art and Craft of Memoir, is an anthology that he put together, and it's edited by William Zinsser. So that's William Zinsser. I adore him and think highly of his inspiring books on writing. And one of the things about shaping a memoir, thinking about, even starting it, if you had an inkling of starting one, is to start writing down your memories and your thoughts that accompany those. And you don't have to pick that framework yet that I mentioned, but start writing, put it all in a folder. And after 6 months, see what you've got. Take a look, open the folder up and see where it's taken you. And then maybe it will talk to you, it will speak to you about what form the memoir wants to take, what framework it wants to take, and what you want to pursue in greater depth and at greater length. And again, it doesn't have to be for publication, it can be just for yourself. I'm going to give you another prompt that you can do at home, that you can do quickly and enjoyably in, however much time you want to take to deal with it, a day or 3 or a week. To write about, don't take a week to think about this, but just write about it. I do this in session in my class, the 3 memorable meals, and write them quickly down. Spend like 5 minutes, just listing 3 memorable meals. And they can be like 3 Christmas meals that you had throughout your life, or childhood, Thanksgiving, or birthdays, or any other thing that sort of ties those 3 meals together. And then again in the class, after people have done this, you can pick one of those meals and write longer about them, or develop all 3 of them more into a more fully fleshed out personal essay. So how are we doing on time, Becky? I wanted to, I'll talk about the time management. So how are we
Yeah,
doing on time?
we have 3 minutes and I want time for questions and answers.
Okay. Well, let me just share with you a time management thing that I found invaluable, and I only discovered it a few years ago through another writer friend. And it's the Pomodoro method, and it helped keep myself in my seat to get through a draft or 2 or 3 of the novel that I've finished and am now working on getting out into the world. It's called the Pomodoro method, and this can be for any kind of work project that you're doing. It doesn't have to just be writing, but I find it's great for writing. You work in 20-minute blocks. You keep track of these 20-minute blocks, and every 20 minutes, so you focus for 20 minutes on your project, whatever it is. You don't let any distractions interrupt you, and you don't check your emails, you don't answer your phone. You save all of those things for the 3 to 5 minute break that you will give yourself after 20 minutes. And that helps put your mind at ease. You don't have those emails and phone calls gnawing at you during the 20 minutes, because you know you're going to be able to get to it when you get to the end of those 20 minutes. And then you feel great after the 20 minutes because you actually accomplished something in 20 minutes. And every 4 blocks that you go through, you get to gift yourself with a 20 to 30-minute block. And that again gives you the opportunity to catch up with all those things, take a nutritional break if you need to, get another cup of coffee, stretch, do some exercises. And this is a proven scientific method. You can look it up. It's the Pomodoro method, and it's an Italian fellow, and he calls it Pomodoro because he used one of those tomato shaped timers to time his 20-minute blocks. I use my iPhone, and it has, it has the little alarm that goes off and so on. And it's scientifically proven that, the little breaks that you take, the 3 to 5 minute breaks, it helps you reset your brain and refresh your brain. You can get up, and as I said, you stretch or you check your emails or something, and then you sit back down, and it's remarkable what it can do for the project that you're working on. So I guess that's it. The other thing I was going to mention before we go to the questions is just that I will be teaching class at UCLA Extension 2 weekends in a row, October 1st to 2nd and October 8th to 9th. And it's these are 4 half days that we'll be doing. And it's called Creative Cafe. And it's about food writing. And it incorporates the material that I developed about working with food and memory, which is how I developed my first novel, Entertaining Disasters. And then it goes on into the contemporary food writing possibilities and the food writing market and so on, and how food writing is a vehicle to explore writing and personal expression and explore personal interests and identity. It's identity through food. A lot of people they identify with what they eat because you are what you eat. So anyone who would like a link to check that out further or possibly enroll, you can find that under classes at my website, which is nancyspiller.org. nancyspiller.com is a Mastiff breeder, and she doesn't want to hear from you unless you want a Mastiff. So that's it. Okay, let's open it up to questions.
Just unmute yourself. I know one has to leave shortly.
Okay.
Yes.
Please proceed.
I wanted to say, Nancy, thank you very much for this class. It was very interesting. And I wanted to tell you that when my mother passed away, and also I call another mom because I was exchange student, I live with a family. I made a website on recipes in their honor because they both really enjoyed making food for family. It was their way of expressing their love. And I wanted to pass this to my kids.
Yeah.
So
Lovely.
it was really a great experience. It took me a couple of years and I created it. And people were saying, oh, put it on YouTube, make money. I said, it's not for making money. It was really my own way of appreciating who they were in my life.
Yeah.
So, and often I do write. My question was, is it good to write freehand or write on the computer? Is it writing with your hand?
Great question.
Yeah.
I ask my students, and I just recommend writing by hand.
Yes, I find that very useful.
Yes, it's very, very useful. First draft by, writing longhand first draft, and journaling for, longhand journaling. I use, the spiral bound notebooks, or I think they're 8.5 by 11 or something, that, and then I can organize them into annual, 3-ring binders. And so that's how I keep track of my journals and organize, that material. But the longhand is really the way to go. And final drafts or second drafts, great to use a computer word processing document and so on. And I would love to know, is your website still up with these recipes?
No, I had to pay monthly fee for it, but I ended up printing it and making it like a booklet and gave it to my daughter. So
that's great. That's beautiful. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I felt like I gave back to them a bit of what they had given into my life. So it was very rewarding.
That's wonderful. Yeah, through my memoir in Compromise Cake, I mean, it literally was, lessons learned from my mother's recipe box. Yeah. And I found, I had encounters with grandparents and great grandparents who I hadn't known through their recipe cards, and I was able to write about that and write about the recipes and the family history and so on. So it's really dealing with recipes and dealing with food is a wonderful way to explore family.
I also wanted to add one other thing that maybe for your audience was that when my father was getting old and he was getting very depressed, I would go off into their house and he was sitting at the table just holding his head down. Mm-hmm. So I said, Dad, why don't you write your memoir? And he was like 85 or so. And he said, well, that's a good idea, because he always loved to talk about his experience. So it was so fascinating to see him over the dining table, spreading all this material, writing. And it became a task to really give it something positive for the day. He would sit there for hours and write, and he developed a very nice booklet that now we have. And he just said, I wish I had started earlier, because some of the things I've forgotten in detail. But it doesn't matter. There's a saying in Farsi that we say, when you catch the fish, it's always fresh when you catch it. So it's always good to start.
I love that saying.
Yes. So, start writing and don't worry about criticizing it. We talk in engineering about brainstorming. Just don't be critical, just write, let your creative senses flow in and you'll appreciate it. I am a painter. I like to paint and draw. That's the way I think I find my meditation. But writing is kind of a secondary thing to me. And when I write, because English is my second language, my husband always says, oh no, it needs a lot of work and I'm not going to do it. So I find it a little frustrating to write, but I figured, like you said, it's for you. I'm not going to publish it. And if I ever put it together, maybe when I'm gone, my kids will enjoy reading it. But, I often go back to what my father has written. And it's always a refreshing thing because your state of mind is different at times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just such a wonderful story about your father, that he was able to write that down and have that to gift you all with.
Yes. And later on when he got dementia and he would just sit there in a vague, he would say, thought just come to my head and then disappear. I don't even know what I was thinking. So we would bring his booklet and we share and we show them pictures and then he would start talking about those.
That's fantastic.
That's wonderful.
It really was. It was a great thing. So I recommend that to almost everyone if they have elderly in their family, to really encourage them to start writing. And with my mother, she didn't write. She had Parkinson's, so her hand was really shaky. But I would always, we had made picture album. So we would sit there and just go through album. And one time, we might spend 2 hours on just one page talking about one person. So it was wonderful. Yes.
That is great. That's lovely.
Yeah. So
thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be in writing. It could be in oral communications. And we videotaped some of the time that she had talked about her childhood. And you could see her laughing and giggling, So it really changed their mood just talking about their childhood, happy moments.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing that you've had those experiences with them to be able to do that. And I would just say if you're not writing, if you wanted to capture it as a text, there's, all these wonderful, technologically speaking, you can translate audio into text now. If that was something that you wanted to do, I mean, you can always transcribe, the audio if you wanted to get it into a text form, but there's, these technological innovations that will also do that for you. And if you're uncomfortable writing in English, if you write in Farsi, if English is your second language, I'm not familiar myself with the translation apps and translation technology, but there's also that available. I don't know if that is something you've explored or.
No, I mean, I'm more comfortable writing in English. I came here when I was 16.
Okay.
But the language is very flowery language. And, but it's not a problem. Sometimes I go back and forth. I write a piece in English and then there's a couple of lines in Farsi, maybe to keep it private so my kids won't read about how terrible they were during teenage years. So it's really a way of getting frustrations out and also challenges, How did you grow out of these experiences?
Yeah.
And what did you learn? Yeah.
I'd like to conclude the time, but keep you on the line, just to say thank you for being here today, Nancy, for this presentation. And stay tuned. We'll be back in September for another presentation.
Thank you.